Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. A lot of people have been talking about Khamzat Chimaev and who his potential next opponent is, and then potential future aspirations, talking about potential matchups with middleweight champion Israel Adesanya as well as welterweight champion Kamaru Usman. So I wanted to make a video talking about Khamzat Chimaev and in depth into his UFC career and kind of discussing whether or not Khamzat Chimaev is overrated. So first off, before I get into my thoughts on whether or not Khamzat Chimaev is overrated, let's look at his potential next opponent. So I've talked about this plenty of times, but if you look at the welterweight division currently, Colby Covington is fighting Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns does not have an opponent. Leon Edwards is fighting the champion Kamaru Usman. Not official yet, but that's the plans of the UFC according to Dana White. Vicente Luque is fighting Bilal Muhammad. Wonderboy Thompson's on a 2-fight losing streak. Neil Magny has a fight. And then you get down to number 9, 10, Sean Brady, Michael Chiesa, and Khamzat Chimaev sitting at currently number 11 in the UFC rankings. We know the UFC wants to give Khamzat Chimaev a massive step up in competition. A lot of people care about Khamzat Chimaev. He has a lot of fans. And we've seen with the UFC, they booked the Leon Edwards fight 3 times over before Khamzat fought Li Jingliang at UFC 267. And it didn't come to fruition, which shows me that the UFC really wants to push Khamzat Chimaev against a top contender. So if Khamzat Chimaev does win that fight, he will get a title shot, which is why I've said multiple times on the channel, the next fight for Khamzat Chimaev will be Gilbert Burns, who is currently sitting number 2 in the UFC rankings. And if that fight does come to fruition, I am super excited for that matchup, because I want to see Khamzat Chimaev test it. And I think that's the fight that the UFC will eventually put together. I don't know why it hasn't been announced yet, but I'm hopeful that it will be announced very soon. Okay, so now let's go and look at Khamzat Chimaev's UFC record and his opponents that he's faced while in the UFC. And before I even get into that, I know I'm going to get comments saying that I'm a Khamzat Chimaev hater. I absolutely love Khamzat Chimaev. I love watching him fight. I love his attitude. I love his fight style. And I'm very high on Khamzat Chimaev. But this is my honest assessment of his resume and where I think he's at right now. If you look at his UFC career, he has 4 fights within the UFC. His first fight in the UFC was against John Phillips, which he defeated by submission via Darce-choke. His second win was against Rhys McKee via TKO. His third win was against Gerald Meerschaert, where he KO'd him in the first round. And his most recent win was at UFC 267, where he submitted Li Jingliang. And all these wins were very, very dominant. But if you start looking at the level of opposition, you look at John Phillips, 22-9, no longer in the UFC, 22-9 when Khamzat fought him. Then you look at Rhys McKee, was a decent prospect, but 10-2 at the time he fought him, no longer in the UFC. The Gerald Meerschaert win, though, has aged very, very well. Gerald Meerschaert has won 3 fights straight in the UFC since losing to Khamzat Chimaev and winning all 3 of those fights by stoppage. Then you get to the Li Jingliang win at UFC 267. This was Khamzat Chimaev's first ranked UFC opponent. I think Li Jingliang was ranked like 12 or 13 at the time Khamzat Chimaev fought him. He dominated him, and now Khamzat Chimaev is currently sitting at number 11 in the UFC rankings. So if you look at these opponents, I think the answer to the question, is Khamzat Chimaev overrated? Yes. And the reason I say that is because, and I think a lot of people look at the word overrated and they kind of have a weird definition of it. They look at it as an insult that this guy sucks, this guy's a trash can, whatever. But that's not my definition of overrated. My definition of overrated, as far as MMA fighters go, is the general consensus of the MMA community of somebody's skill set and how does that match up with the evidence. And I know Khamzat Chimaev has looked super dominant, and I know he's looked so good, but look at the level of opposition. You have 2 guys out of 4 who are still in the UFC. The Li Jingliang win is good, don't get me wrong, I'm very happy, and I'm not even blaming Khamzat Chimaev because he's accepted fights with Leon Edwards. But if you really want to say, oh, he beat Li Jingliang, oh, he can definitely beat Kamaru Usman now, are we going to say, you know, Neil Magny's elite? Are we going to say Neil Magny's a title contender? Because Neil Magny beat Li Jingliang just in March of 2020. Jake Matthews beat him back in 2018. So it's not like Li Jingliang, while he is a very good fighter, he's not a great measuring stick to be able to tell that a guy is championship caliber. And a lot of people, and I know this guy is very popular. I'm a fan of Khamzat Chimaev, but I don't think we can let a guy's popularity dictate what we perceive to be his skill set. And he's looked so good. I know he's looked so good, but we have to understand the level of competition is nowhere near the elite of the elite at welterweight. So I think we have to pump the brakes on saying, oh, he would definitely beat Israel Adesanya. There is people out there saying for 100% certainty that he will beat Israel Adesanya. I think that is insane. You know, I know Khamzat Chimaev went in there in a freestyle wrestling match and out-wrestled Jack Hermanson, who's a rather large middleweight. But to say that he would go out there and be able to do that to Israel Adesanya, I just think is a little bit premature. And now, you know, if Khamzat Chimaev is able to go out there and absolutely wreck Gilbert Burns, who I'm very high on, then we can start talking about, okay, he would destroy Kamaru Usman or he would destroy Israel Adesanya. I think, you know, when people say, oh, he would definitely destroy Kamaru Usman, I think that's more in the realm of possibility than the Adesanya thought, just because when you look at the skill set, Khamzat Chimaev has shown that he has elite level grappling, at least against these guys that he's fought who are okay. And he's shown in the freestyle wrestling match against Jack Hermanson, he's able to outmuscle guys who are rather large middleweights. And I've always said in a particular matchup against Kamaru Usman, anybody who can keep the fight standing against Kamaru Usman has a very good chance at beating him, because I do not trust Kamaru Usman striking. And I know Kamaru Usman went out there and slept Jorge Masvidal, who is a very good striker, but Jorge Masvidal was terrified, absolutely terrified of the takedown of Kamaru Usman. If Khamzat Chimaev can go out there and, you know, he's not worried about the takedown because his grappling is so good, he can strike much better than someone who is worried about the takedown. He can let his hands go. He can throw power shots. He's already shown that he has nasty power regardless of the level of opponent. He fought Gerald Meerschaert and slept him with a picture-perfect right hand. So I think the Kamaru Usman possibility is much more in the realm of possibility. But I just think overall, when you look at his resume, and you look at the evidence of how good his skill set is, and even though he's looked so good, the level of competition has been too low to say, you know, okay, he would definitely do this or definitely do that. I've even said I would probably lean Khamzat Chimaev against Kamaru Usman. That's how much I'm even overrating Khamzat Chimaev. So I don't want people to sit here and say, oh, I'm a Khamzat hater. I've even overrated him myself because he hasn't fought elite level competition. But there are some people out here saying it is a foregone conclusion that Khamzat Chimaev is going to defeat Kamaru Usman, take the welterweight title. Well, first off, going to defeat Gilbert Burns, earn the #1 contender spot, go out there, defeat Kamaru Usman, take the welterweight belt off of him, then move up to middleweight and definitely take the middleweight title again off Adesanya. And I just think that is a bit of a stretch when you look at his UFC resume. I think we're overrating him. I think we got to pump the brakes. Otherwise, we could end up with a massive bust on our hands. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think regardless, I think Khamzat Chimaev is going to prove himself as one of the elite, at least at welterweight. But I just think people have these highly inflated expectations of him when he's only beating two guys who are still in the UFC, one being Li Jingliang, who's lost to Neil Magny fairly recently. I know I already mentioned, but there's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Is Khamzat Chimaev overrated? Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.